Hello, guys and girls, and welcome to the VR Inside podcast. This is episode number 7. So this is a weekly VR talk show that is live streamed every Saturday on Nathies YouTube channel. You can tune into the show live at 4 p.m. in Europe, 3 p.m. in UK, and 10 a.m. in central US. If you missed the podcast for whatever reason, you can catch up with it every Sunday, where I upload the whole show to my own YouTube channel, Virtual Reality Oasis. Or alternatively, like I announced last week, the podcast will be available on Google Music Play. I'm also super happy to announce today that it's also going to be available on iTunes now, so you can pick up the podcast and listen to just audio version only on Google Music Play and iTunes. So I'm chuffed a bit for that. Thank you. Well done, guys. Well done.
Oh, excellent. Apple slaves be happy.
Listen, this is way too many claps. We can't keep up.
So if you've got any questions or comments during the show, please put them in the chat and we'll try to answer them as many as we can. I'm going to introduce you to everyone in the room. We've got a full house today. So I'm going to start off with Nathie, aka the King of VR, aka the Flying Dutchman. How you doing, Nathie?
I'm doing totally fine, yes.
Awesome. We've got Austin. He is the guy that puts the bro in the Brometheus, always wearing his wife beater, living the dream. How you doing, man?
It's just a tank. I don't beat women.
That's good to know. That's good to know. That's important. We've got RowdyGuy. You know, funny thing about Rowdy is that he likes to host VR pool parties and then kill all the guests that turn up. So that's a bit of inside information there. It actually happened.
Private. Private.
This happened in a private game we were playing of Skyfront earlier in the week. We have Zim. So he's not happy unless he's live, and that is ZimTalk 5.
Did you just come up with that?
That's cool.
Did you literally come up with that?
Damn.
Oh, jeez.
We can advertise this is live.
Wow.
I might use that.
Welcome to the show, Zim. I will come to like a proper introduction where you can talk about yourself very shortly, but welcome to the show, man.
Thanks.
Also, we have a very special guest with us today, and that is Mark Barnes from Rockat Games, and that's the team that brought you Elevator to the Moon. A very warm welcome to you, Mark. Or should I call you Arnie, in fact, because
there is no relationship to persons living or dead, blah, 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 laws, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Oh, you mean like the guy from The Simpsons? What's his name? I don't know. That sounds like that other person. No.
The other guy. No, that's not
guy.
Okay.
No.
So we won't call you Arnie. We'll just stick with Mark for now.
Thank you.
So, last but not least, myself, the host of the show, Mike from Virtual Reality Oasis, and I'm your resident bald guy. So today, in today's show, we've got a few topics to talk about. We've got Zim, obviously welcoming Zim to the show and a bit of an introduction from himself. We've got some news about Windows mixed reality headsets because they came out on the 17th of October, and there's some mixed reports coming in about whether they're any good or not. We've got some information about Nibre, the guy who did the Mother VR Alien Isolation mod. He's working on some stuff with Windows mixed reality platform. We've got Stifled, which is due for release on PSVR and Steam, Sonic VR, and also we want to talk to Mark about his game, which is Elevator to the Moon. So, guys, I am going to kick off the show and talk about Zim, because he is our newest member. So, welcome to the show, Zim.
Hello.
Hey, thank you, everybody.
How you doing, man? So, I just want to quickly just start off by saying, obviously, Frank was a part of the show, but unfortunately, Frank just couldn't commit to the show 100% that we needed, and by his own admissions as well. So he couldn't give it everything that it requires. So we still love Frank, and there's no bad feeling there at all. But unfortunately, he just won't be part of the show here on out. But Zim is standing in at the moment, so it could be something that carries on in the future. We don't know 100% yet. But obviously, introduce you to Zim, and he can talk about himself and what he gets up to in VR.
Thanks, Mike.
Hey,
all right, so for those of you guys,
VR, bud.
Yeah.
For those of you guys who don't know, so I'm a Twitch streamer. So I've been doing Twitch streaming of VR, showcasing across Rift, VIII, and PSVR for the last 3 years. Still going strong, and we try to cover basically everything. So I think in that space we're one of the only ones who do it. As Mike said, my strength is live. So if you haven't caught one of my shows before, maybe you will in the future. And I think they decided to pick the second most crazy person on the internet after Frank. So there you go.
That's true. And I actually dived into one of Zim's live streams last night, and I have to say it's crazy, and I have to tip my hat to you, man, because you know, obviously we're all YouTube content creators, and we get to edit all the bad stuff out, you know, so we have the luxury of kind of always portraying the best part of our show to our audience. But when you do it live, a bit like this, it can be a bit crazy at times. Things can go wrong. You kind of have to manage that. And also being entertaining for such a long period of time is a real skill. So I have to tip my hat to you, dude.
Oh, thank you.
I get it.
Yeah, we all tip our hats to you. So we actually jumped into Zim's stream last night. We played some games. We played Windlands.
Oh, nice.
Classy
Technology.
I didn't know that was possible, Rowdy.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Right there. That's amazing.
We should block that from Rowdy so we can't do that.
So classy.
This is awful content for our audio listeners, by the way. We have to describe everything now. So if you didn't see this, if you're not watching it live, Rowdy just put up a stupid sticker on stream of a little top hat. So if you're listening live and you want to see this craziness, then obviously come over to the live stream and you'll be able to see our beautiful faces and the crazy stuff that happens on the screen. But yeah, so I jumped in with Zim last night. We played some Windlands 2. We played Tractable, which made me feel a bit weird after a little while. And we played some BAM, which is Bullets and More. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah.
All quality titles, you got to say. I mean, to be able to jump into kind of VR multiplayer now and play 3 titles that are so completely different. Yeah. I think we just had a blast in all 3 of them. But like you say, it's interesting to see even now, I'd say 4 years after the real spike up in VR started, you know, that some of us still suffer a little bit from, you know, a bit of VR sickness because there's different things to get you. Like for me, it was a little bit of frame drop in the tractor ball game, because I tend to run quite a bit on my stack, and even the developer was like, you'll be fine, you'll be absolutely fine. Bullets and More was the same thing, right? So you tend to kind of get things that do catch you off guard, whether it's flipping through the air on a tractor or, you know, something else but a frame loss. It's still something that we all contend with from time to time, you know? So.
That wasn't the one.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it was the going backwards for me that really did it for me. But no, you were fine. You know, I pushed through, and then once we'd moved on to another game, I was absolutely fine. I didn't have to like take a break or anything. It was fine in that sense. But how long have you been messing around with VR now, Zim?
God, the first time I got into VR was like October 2013. Right. So
it's very specific.
Yeah, it was about that because I remember it because there was a post on Overclockers UK on their forum, and so there's actually a YouTube video of it. But my wife and I went along to this guy called Chaos, who's a VR developer, who unfortunately has had a bit of an up and down career since then. But he's a brilliant level designer, and he said like, yeah, happy to show off the showcase. Buy me a pint, I'll let you bring you back to my place, and you know, we'll get on with some action. So we did. And fucking the DK1 was just like, I went with like my hype level was super high. Like, you know, when you're like bubbling with energy and you're like, ah! And like I said it to my wife, I'm like, I am so coming down from this the second I get in because it's not going to be that good. And then I got in, and like the thing that Chow said to me, he said, after I took off the headset, and my wife's like, how are you? And Chow said, welcome back to the shitty real world. and those words are forever with me. Yeah, because I was just smitten by it. I was like, you know, my bar was here because I loved like stereo and I loved 3D movies and stuff like that, and Wii and Kinect, all the kind of fringe technologies. I love that stuff. But man, I mean, once you get bitten by it, that's it. Like Mark, when did you touch VR for the first time?
Like I worked for Rocket as a product research manager, which basically means that they would send me toys and I would test them and then send them back and just say,
job.
Yeah,
that sounds like the best job in the world.
What a job.
It was, and no one believed I was working. I'm like, I'm really busy right now. Like, nah, games. And there were, I don't know, a lot of it's still under NDA. So someone came and showed me a DK1 for just to demonstrate another technology. Yeah, so they demonstrated the other technology, but I was like, oh, this is cool. And I was in a warehouse with boxes and they were exploding and stuff. And I thought, oh, this is pretty neat, you know? But I mean, I must say when I first saw it, I was a little bit underwhelmed just because of the because I've seen stuff like this before in the 90s when I went to like a PC gamers thing and they shoved massive CRTs in front of my face, and I played Doom, and the mouse look was mapped to your head, and it was just like this crazy, but I wanted to push through to, you know, this is VR, it has to be amazing, but back then it wasn't. But then when we got the DK2 in, that changed everything, because I showed a whole bunch of the industrial designers, because I basically introduced them to new technology so they can be inspired to create new things. And they were all blown away. And we just spent the entire night just roller coaster, or we did that game where you fall, and and a bunch of other ones. And then whenever I had anything new, like Pixel Rift, it was called back then, and stuff like that, like cool, clever design stuff, I would show them. But it was DK2 when I actually started, okay, let's open up Unity, let's get some cardboards, let's try a lot of different things and just see what we could, you know, start kit bashing and having a bit of fun, you know. And then as soon as I could create, I felt like, yeah, this is amazing, you know. Like I felt really part of it then. But yeah, like first time in DK2 with the introduction to VR experience, that floored me, and I was like, I'm in. I was like, I forgot there's this presence level that's kind of like sort of like sifting over reality, and these moments where I feel like I'm there, and I forgot, where you forget that you're actually feeling that feeling and you're actually in it. And yeah, that was cool. That was really cool.
I think that's one of the things about VR, right? It's like you say, Zim, about being bitten by it, and it all relies on actually trying it, you know, right? Like we try our best as content creators to try and portray how cool it is, because we want to spread the word about VR. But really, like, until you get a headset on your head, you really can't appreciate how awesome it is. That's true. I agree with that. Yeah. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, if you go back, like, this is the thing that Mark and I, we caught up at Oculus Connect, and if you go back a technology step, right? So positional tracking, let's throw that out the window and put on a Gear VR. Like, that is really hard for me. Like, there are not many compelling titles that help me make that back step. And that's why I don't, as a headset, I don't cover that. Two reasons, right? It's not easy to stream off a mobile device with the software stack. And the second thing is, the technology step backwards is tough. Is tough. But if that's your only first step upwards, it's great. And that's why I think that, like, Oculus Go is a fantastic opportunity, because all in one for $200.
Yeah, totally.
Who's gonna not say yes at Christmas? You know what I mean? Like, that's great.
And it's funny too, because I consider this the Atari 2600 versus the Odyssey. You know, like, GVR is the Odyssey, and the Atari 2600 is consumer VR, or DK2. You know, and then we're at the very beginning step. So the leap between the two, positional tracking is huge, but then you go room scale, that's another huge step. And then, like, hopefully in 5 years is another one that we weren't even thinking of, because I feel like with VR, there were all these convergent technologies kind of on the fringe that just had no place. Like positional tracking was just this gimmick you did in front of your TV, but when you put it in VR, it's given context. And I think that's the cool thing about VR, was like, it's like a tent pole for all these other technologies to kind of be absorbed and embraced by, you know, especially the cool experimental ones.
I still remember when Elite Dangerous came out. I wanted to buy that game. Wasn't even thinking about virtual reality back then. And they had like those, a lot of people bought like those cameras that if you moved your head, it would like, the camera would see your head moving and it would move the screen. So you would still have to keep your eyes on the screen. Like this.
I've seen that too, yeah.
You mean Track IR, I think, Rowdy? Track IR?
Exactly.
Yeah, because you had the free version and then you had the paid version. The paid version, you had like a camera. And I remember watching a guy on Twitch who had like a baseball hat with like lights, like dotted lights on it that would track his head.
That was freaking awesome. It was freaking awesome. I loved stuff like that. But I mean, not a lot of people did it because, you know, there's not that many applications for it. Of course, if you play a lot of Elite Dangerous, then I can imagine that. But for other games, that was not that really normal to see. But now you see like so many games that now, because of virtual reality, come into that, and they all make use of that certain technology. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, that's right. And then talking about sort of new headsets and virtual reality, we've got the Windows Mixed Reality platform, right? That's just been launched on the 17th of October. So a few days ago. So I've been kind of keeping an eye on the Mixed Reality Reddit forums and just seeing what people think of these devices, because they're starting to get delivered now. People are starting to set them up, trying to test them out a little bit. And one of the big sort of criticisms that keeps on popping up over and over again is that it's got like a software IPD adjustment in it, right? So like on the Rift, you've got like the physical button that you can adjust the lens spacing. I'm not sure if that's the same with the Vive. Is that right? Or is it?
Yeah, it is.
It's got a turn screw.
Okay, so it's got a physical adjustment as well, which I think is what you need, because it seems like this software IPD adjustment is causing a real problem. You know, they can't get it
automatic. So it's like just always trying to get you the right IPD, or?
I think it's something that you have to physically input yourself, but I'll know more by the end of the week. I guess it's
because we all know that, right? Yeah, what's your IPDs, guys?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's difficult to know that.
Optometrist, real quick.
Yeah. So,
but back in the DK1, like you had the same thing. You just went through a little software bit, you measured your IPD, and boom, you knew that if you were a normal person or a mutant freak. If you're a freak, then you know. Back him off the IPD scale, lads. That's it. VR is not for me.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm actually a little bit off that scale, but I can use the Oculus actually better for that, because it goes a little bit further than the Vive. So for me, that's actually a little bit nicer, I think.
In terms of being closer together or further apart?
Closer together.
Yeah, I'm the same.
It's not like ice like here. Like.
I'm a goldfish. How do I play VR?
No, I'm exactly the same.
Forget about it in 5 minutes. You won't be able to tell anybody.
I have mine on the very lowest setting, you know, very lowest. And I've actually.
Can we actually touch on that? Because I think it's a real interesting thing that I caught in Reddit a couple of years ago. It's quieted down since, but people with, you know, one funny eye, like a lazy eye, or who are wall-eyed or whatever, I mean, they can still benefit from VR. I think people had the question initially. It's like, can I use it? Is it going to work for me? And what I've read is the majority of cases it does work, but it's better if you are able to go and get, you know, surgery to correct. But what I understand, those people do get to benefit from it. Even someone with one eye gets to benefit, because again, what's their reality like? Their reality is one eye, and their virtual reality is one eye. Yeah. Yes, they don't benefit from the stereo effect, but guess what? They don't have the stereo effect ever anyway. You know, and it's a bit like the track IR thing you were talking about, Rowdy, right? Yeah. Like once you have the benefit of being able to move the game scene with your head, like look around naturally, like especially in driving games. Like I was like, God, this is so easy. I'm just like looking out the back window, you know. Oh, look, they didn't model half the car.
They weren't thinking people would do it, but that's awesome, you know. I love that stuff. Yeah.
It was interesting.
But I love the games that did. Like
like
full gun model. You know what I mean? Because back then they just did the whole thing, then they put it in. They're like, well, forget optimization. We'll just do the whole model.
Because there'll be a couple of dudes that are like, yeah, man. Like I turned around and I saw it, and I love little details like that. It's so cool.
It's interesting you touched on that actually, Zim, because at the Oculus Connect show in their keynote, they actually mentioned about making VR more accessible for people that have disabilities or impairments in whatever way. So, you know, if you can map the controls in some way to another controller that, you know, that you can use just with one hand, for example. So that's really, really cool as well, that they're actually taking notice to that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
that's right.
I almost have the feeling that the Pimax is like a wall-eyed headset, because it's so like around you. So maybe if you get your eyes over here, you can still experience VR.
So we've actually confirmed it that the Pimax will work if you're a frog. So there you go, guys. That is the inside scoop.
Frog VR confirmed.
We should just drop the mic there.
Isn't frog a slut? Anyway, I'm not going to get into that territory.
But Mike, you bought a mixed reality headset, right?
Yeah, so that's true. So that's kind of where I was leading to with it. So basically, there's a lot of like mixed opinions about it, and you know the fact it's called mixed reality. But yeah, so I actually went out and bought one myself. I went to PC World yesterday, and if any of my listeners, viewers out there will know that if you go into PC World, it is the worst place in the world to buy technology. I don't know why they make life so difficult for us consumers. I don't know why. It's because they literally got the worst customer service in the world. But I went in there and they had the Dell, they had the Lenovo on display. Well, I say on display, they had it on a shelf below.
Sorry, Mike, you're blowing my mind a little bit here. So you're saying that the Windows MR headsets, some of them at least, are here in brick and mortar shops in the UK.
Yeah,
I did not know that.
So you can walk into
that is not the case in where I live. Not at all.
Right.
You cannot find them.
Okay, so like, this is the thing. Like, I went into PC World, and they're sort of like PC World curries over here. But where the enthusiast PC section is, which are also awful, and I wouldn't recommend you go and buy one of their PCs because they're terrible. But anyway, they had the Rift, they had the Vive, they had the Dell, and they had the Lenovo on a little shelf. And I said to the guy, "Oh, I want that headset right there, the Dell one." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm not quite sure if I can sell you that." I'm like, "It's right there. I just want to buy it." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I don't really know anything about it." I was like, "No, I know what it is."
It's okay, I know what I want.
Yeah.
Store right now,
Yeah.
you know.
Is that a printer I can put on my hat? You know, like.
Yeah.
Am I in a museum? What is going on?
Next time you should just be like, "Do you know who I am?"
Yeah.
Use that card.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, badass.
So he shuffles off to the warehouse and he comes back with the box, and I'm like, "Oh, brilliant! This is what I want." And he goes, "So what does this thing actually do?" And I'm like, "Mate, you work here.
Right.
This is your job."
Yeah, wow.
So I picked the Dell.
I had the opposite experience in the U.S. Like when we were out for Oculus Connect, I went into a store and they had posterage. I mean, I was really impressed. There was this Microsoft store, and they had. I think it was a Microsoft store. I'll have to look back at the photos I took, but there was a Rift in the corner with a nice little homely PC. There was a Vive sitting there. No, like dust gathering on that clearly. But out in the shop front, and this was probably 2 weeks before launch, Windows MR stuff all over the place. The girl who was there talked me right through all the different headsets and the benefits, pros and cons. So there was a stark difference between the US and the UK in terms of the sales floor, I mean, and unfortunately that's the case, I think, across the UK. Is there a good shop you can go to learn about Windows mixed reality? I doubt it.
And this is the thing, like if they had one on demo, that would be different, because again, like we said earlier, you really need to try it to believe in it, right? So if they had one on demo, that would have made such a big difference. Yeah. But then I sort of walked out with it, and he was just like, "I don't even know what this thing is." But I chose the Dell over the Lenovo because the Dell is a slightly wider field of view. I think it's like an extra 5 or 10 degrees field of view.
What color is that's the white one?
The white one, yeah. So it looks very Apple-like, actually, in fact. I haven't actually tried it yet. I've just literally unboxed it and did a video of the unboxing, but I will be trying it later on today.
Taking the plastic off, eh?
Oh yeah, it had that new headset smell.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I also smell the black.
Actually, out of this audience, right? Hands up, who has tried MR at this point? One of the new headsets.
I do mixed reality all the time. Has nothing to do with headsets.
I got a very interesting story actually. So I pre-ordered the Samsung Odyssey. It's not available in Europe, so I will have to import it to play around with it. But yesterday I received an email from Altspace. As you guys may know, Altspace has been bought by Microsoft. And to show my dedication, or to show their appreciation for what I did for Altspace, they offered me a free mixed reality headset. So I'm getting another one. I'm not sure which one it is, but it's funny that Microsoft also gives them out to people to promote it a bit more. So that's an interesting one actually.
Yeah, it's interesting as well about the fact that the Samsung Odyssey, you can't actually buy it in Europe.
No.
You can only buy it in the US.
Yeah.
So I don't know why that is.
Maybe a soft launch or something like that.
Testing
like
the
maybe.
waters.
Yeah.
But I mean, all in all, right? If we take the fact that this launched on the 17th, wasn't it, Mike?
Yeah.
To me, it's been a very soft landing. There has not been a big splash here. I mean, I certainly even on Reddit, which usually goes crazy for this kind of stuff. Maybe there's a sub that I'm not part of, but yeah, I've seen very little about it. I mean, the news agencies who's covered it. Yeah. I don't think they've done it really a huge amount of justice either.
Think about this. The initial VR shock, like the idea of hearing about how insane VR, like I think we have this bar set now of like the hype that we've gotten when the VR headsets first came out. So now that these mixed reality headsets are coming out and they're not really doing anything that's so crazy compared to the VR ones, I can see why it's not like it's a niche within a niche at this point. You already got VR people who are the ones that are interested. Yeah. Now you got mixed reality, which is basically this like subset of it for certain people within that range already that want either like a lower price or maybe like a slightly different feature. So I get why it's not making a massive splash, but I do agree there should be at least more people within our subsection talking about it. Yeah. I would say.
But I feel like right now mixed reality is just they want to test it out. They don't feel like promoting it extremely well, and that's why you don't see it that much. It's more like, hey, we got this here now. Let's see who's actually buying it without really, you know, it's more like a catch to see, like, to test it out a bit. That's it.
And also maybe, I mean, if you consider like all of the early adopters, like all of the people that were like, you know, really hyped for virtual reality, by now they probably all like bought a headset. A large part of them, and the part that is still on doubt of buying it is probably waiting for like the killer title, which of course Microsoft has as well with their fabulous Halo Recruit.
I love it.
Yeah,
that was sarcasm for any Americans who didn't get that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we have an Acer. We have an Acer that was sent to us, and we were going to look at it, but it was like it came the first day, and everyone's like, "Ray, they're here," and then it was Windows Update, and so we haven't tried it yet. So we got to wait for the creators update, and then we'll have a look at it. But the one that we had is the blue Acer one with the kind of goggle head strap, the lowest end one. Yeah. I think inside out tracking is a given. Like, I mean, I think that's the next step for most things, because not having to set up cameras is like a huge. I think people underestimate the power of convenience when it comes to any experience, and I think this takes one of those steps away, but then it also, you're still tethered. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what I don't know. I can't really say anything, but we have one.
But how well does that inside out tracking actually works? Because I've read a lot of posts about people who tried, like, you know, when they were, for example, aiming with a bow or something.
Yeah,
that when they moved their head
away.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, if you have gyroscopes in there as well, I don't know if they have gyroscopic sensors or anything like that that can kind of fill in gaps or anything like that. But if it's just the lights and the cameras are tracking the lights, as soon as you pull it back, as far as the headset's concerned, if it can't triangulate where you are going, or it doesn't have some software to try and follow you, or imagine where you're going to go, then I think it's tricky, you know.
I think this is a tough time. Like, I mean, this is one of those technology pushes that I have to ask myself, why would I buy one of the 6 or 7 headsets that have been released? Price point doesn't seem that attractive when you consider the other options, and the fact that Rift just made a permanent price point of $399. I think that was the perfect parlay to say, sorry guys, we're coming back to Joust hard. I mean, they've been pushing price just so hard over the last year. I'm really surprised they've been able to achieve it. I know Vive has felt that pressure, but now these guys launching into essentially a negative space when it comes to the outlay. The curiosity factor, maybe that's why they're not demoing it. I mean, maybe to Mike's point, right? Like, I mean, if I've still got that curiosity, I might buy in. It's kind of the reason why some developers stay away from demos, because they're like, you can't just have a taster, because if you have a taster, maybe that's going to be enough.
No, but it's not only the price, it's also the fact that Vive had its killer title, the Lab. You know, we had Oculus with First Contact and some others like the Bullet Train. And what does the mixed reality headsets have? Halo Recruit. No, but like there is no real, like, some people want to spend extra on hardware for just really cool games, but they aren't there, so there's no reason to buy it, you know, and that's also one of the key factors that doesn't really help with this whole mixed reality headset.
That's why, I mean, the price point doesn't really, I mean, it is of course a factor into making it mass production, but they can tomorrow release a headset of 900 euros, and if it's better than all the other ones, and if they have the games that will be released on it, a lot of people will still buy that, even though if there are cheaper options available.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you had a headset that just simply outperformed every other headset, you gave, like, a lot of people just don't like having to think about which one they should get. If you can go without having to spend like 6 hours racking your brain about which one of these headsets should I get, what's the little trade-offs and all this. If I can spend like a couple extra $100 and just know beyond a shadow of a doubt I have the headset that everyone wants, right?
And that's the success of Apple.
You're going to get.
That's what Apple has been doing for years.
Everyone wants those Apple products.
Apple versus Microsoft. Microsoft's like, you can have 16 different options of all your flavor. It's like, I just want the one.
But again, like before...
Apple's like, you can have one in a color you don't like, but it's going to be the best.
But like again, before we spoke about mixed reality, when it wasn't out yet, we already said like this confuses consumers. They don't really know what this exactly is. It's not getting marketed in a way where everyone knows. Like even I wasn't like... knowing at all what it was exactly. That's why I pre-ordered one, because I need to see it for myself. But like mixed reality confuses people. People really think that mixed reality is now something different than VR. Well, you know, they are just trolling around with the whole. So I think it's a positive thing, but it's also like hurting the industry a bit, especially with.
But I mean, just look like at the news that we've had recently, right? Like, I mean, the point of mixed reality is like this inside-out tracking. I think it was Mark or Rowdy who made that point, but definitely a next step for those who've tried the Crescent Bay demo as well. I mean, it's like this volume of tracking when you don't need to have base stations, when you don't need to have cameras pointed at you. Of course, that's where we're headed. I think it's difficult for content creators because you have to ask yourself the question of how am I getting the video feed out? But I think it's a channel that, from a software stack, they can't ignore.
I agree with that. I agree with that. That it is the next step. But for me personally, I mean, the lighthouses itself are not an issue for me. I have them set up, and as long as I can get a better performance with my lighthouses, I prefer to use something like that than to lose tracking occasionally or have like some kind of small issues. Of course, if it's the same, if they can deliver the same quality as the lighthouses do, then I'm all for it. But I wouldn't want to have something that is less good.
Anyone not on a wire?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, they also already have you know what I mean? Like, if you already have two lighthouse stations set up and you have the Vive, they've already got you. You're already a virtual reality enthusiast, and you already have the best in class tracking. And if it's not a problem for you, the experiences are outweighing the convenience. But I think with people, it's almost like they're trying to find out what are the things that are stopping people from adopting. Like, what will it take for it to be a mass market product? Yeah, that's a big one, right?
Yeah.
But also,
I was signaling money for those on the audio podcast.
Rubbing the fingers together. Yeah, but I feel that's the kind of thing that they're experimenting with. And I think by saying mixed reality, it's almost like glass processing. It's like, hey, this is something. This is inside out tracking. It's a different thing. And the way that they're trying to do it is that they're trying to be like the Electrolux or the like where the brand is actually pushing forward what people call it or what the terminology is for the first time.
I just feel like they are not informing people well enough. Like before you
it's
bought the Vive,
that's the biggest problem.
Yeah, before you bought
it's splintering.
Yeah, that's true. And before you bought the Vive, Steam had like a whole page up. When you were like going into Steam and you got all the information. Like you have lighthouses that track your headset in a very simple way. But with this mixed reality headset, it's like, a lot of people don't really know how it works because there is not really like, it's also not clear who they really want to target in the first place.
And I don't really know if price is really this much of an issue, because I know tons of people that will get like spend a ton of money on getting just like the best kind of product, as long as the content is there. If they have like crazy kind of experience, crazy kind of games, the people will buy it.
Yeah, that's right. I'm wondering if Xbox One is the missing link in that. If you're like a Windows, Microsoft nerd, and you're like, I'm into this brand, I'm into these franchises, and then they go, well, by the way, boom, it's on console. Maybe that's what's missing. I don't know. And then they have their PlayStation battle.
I think that's right. I think if they did that, and said, if they said like tomorrow, right, okay, just by the way, guys, all Windows mixed reality headsets will work with the Xbox One or Xbox One, whatever the next one is called, then I think then they've got it. They've got the market there already, right? Brilliant. We finally know what this headset is targeted at. But right now, it's just like Nathie said, it's just so confusing who they're marketing this at, because you're right in that convenience is a good point, because apparently, I saw someone at the show, Oculus Connect, they just pulled out a laptop out of their bag. They pulled out the Acer headset that you've got. They plugged it in and it was just set up already. Like, tracking worked. And that's great. And that's part of the testing that I'll be looking forward to. But also, like Nathie touched on, was that without great content, then you've got nothing. Content is key at the end of the day. And, that's why Oculus are doing so well, in my opinion, right now, because that's where the best content is at. So it'll be interesting to see.
Again, it depends on who you want to target. If you want to target like younger kids or teenagers, then it's like you need to have some cool games. But if you want to target older people, then have some great software available. But right now it's a mix, and there's no clear like market, what they want to do. And it seems like they don't want to go full in, because if I I saw like that Halo recruit thing. It's like, do you really want to make this the best thing out there, or are you just like, okay, yeah, let's just do a little bit of that and a little bit of that, you know? Then go full in. You got Halo. Then use it in your favor. They could also have gone for like a scripted experience where you see things exploding around you, whatever. But this was like one of the most disappointing things, and the rest of the titles are all things that already existed. So I haven't really seen anything like really new that is exclusive to them in a way, you know? Microsoft have so many like franchises and titles they can use in their favor, but they don't. Yeah, they use Halo, but I can't call that Halo. That's just a shooting game.
Damage.
It's like Valve would make Portal without any portals, or like Left 4 Dead 3 without any zombies.
Yeah, but that's like that already. Like if you buy that thing and you play Halo and you already got other headsets, then you actually damage trust, because people are like, so you try to trap me to buy this product with this Halo thing?
Yep.
It's kind of like a trap. I see it as a trap. It's people think Halo, wow, and then you get all the websites like Upload and other websites hyping it up even more with screenshots that are fake, that are from the actual Xbox game. That's stupid.
Oh, really?
You know, that's so uncool. So yeah.
And they're using the wrong using the wrong selling point. I think mixed reality is not the differentiating factor. The differentiating factor is just like the Rift had, ease of setup, ease of use. It's what Mike said.
Yeah.
Right? You can pull this thing out, and as Mike said, I saw 5 or 6 people at Connect using it out of a box. Yeah. And actually the number of mobile dev stations with screens, like back in the DK1 days with like showing 2 eyes and everything, where people were just sitting up, having lunch and showing somebody what they were working on. There were a lot of those. There were easily 20 or 30 of those mobile dev stations. So to developers, it's important. And I'll tell you, like to the audience that Nathie was mentioning, the older population, they don't want to feck about with stuff. They just want to, you know, pull it out, use it, and get on with their lives. Like, the older you get, the less time you have.
When you forget about your console or you forget about your hardware for a while and you revisit it, you have this beautiful updating process. You know, that when you're like when you want convenience, when you have kids and you put them to bed. Maybe I'm speaking from experience here. It's like, do I power on my PC? Yeah, right. Do I power on my PC? Do I get all hooked up and then go in, or do I just go click on the console and wait for an update and then play?
And that's also what explains the success of those consoles, and explains the success basically also of Steam, because Steam made everything a lot easier as well. Just you know, putting that up, installing everything in one place, and having it all ready to go.
Made it excellent for hackers too. I'm just going to throw that in there, Rowdy. The best backdoor ever is the fact that you have auto patching, because you patch something in and you take it out again, and the end user never knew. Anyway, I'm just gonna put that in there.
like you say, Rowdy, the Steam is the killer app right now, but unfortunately, it's not going to be available for Windows mixed reality platform until December. Yeah. So, you know, all I would say is to the listeners that are listening now, the viewers that are watching, you know, if you're interested in any way of a Windows mixed reality headset, I would hold fire right now. You know, wait until December at the very least, and you know, in the next coming weeks, you're going to have reviews from myself and Nathie. About the headset and the hardware itself, because I think the hardware is interesting, but right now the software is just it's non-existent essentially. So I would hold fire and wait.
Also, quick update.
Even on the dev side, I would say, from the developers I've spoken to about the platform, and even the shop assistant who I talked to in the US, they couldn't get the thing bloody running. Like, you know, the basic demo structures, like very simple stuff. I just think what you mentioned earlier, Mike, I think it's kind of very much DK1 era. Like, this is development kit.
Yeah.
Also, quick update, there has just been released another Windows VR mixed reality headset from Fujitsu.
Love those guys. Who are those guys?
So, yeah, just saying.
I think right now
right?
the Samsung one is definitely looking like the nicest one so far, because it's got the AMOLED display, it's got the built-in audio and the higher field of view. So, you know, if you're looking at one, that's probably going to be the one. But like we said earlier, it's not going to be available in Europe, so you're going to have to import one, which is a bit weird. But just moving on from Windows mixed reality and touching on it a little bit, the guy Nibre, who made the Mother VR mod for Alien Isolation, he's actually working on bringing you're going to be excited about this one, guys, Halo Recruit to other VR headsets, so you can actually experience this wonderful experience yourself. But the thing is, like, Halo Recruit aside, it's interesting because what we want is this kind of bit like what the Revive guys did, you know, where you can access Oculus content on the Vive. Well, this is maybe going to allow, you know, Vive and Oculus users to use content from Windows, because like the Cliff House does look like an interesting concept. I know that Oculus are doing something similar themselves now with their you know, what do they call it, sort of environments where you can completely customize it yourself, you know, where the Cliff House is like that. You can put screens up everywhere. So
that's what you meant by Cliff House. You mean the starting area in Oculus Home?
Yeah. So Microsoft Windows platform have got Cliff House. You can put different screens up around your house, and you can move stuff around, and that's kind of your home starting environment. So I'm going to be doing videos on this throughout the week. You know, I'm going to try Superhot, I'm going to try Halo Recruit, and I'm also going to do Cliff House as well. But my expectations right now are pretty low, so it's going to be interesting to see if it can wow me in any way.
Yeah.
So I just want to move on then, guys, to some games. So these are some things that are coming out in the near future. So we got Stifled, which is a PSVR title, but it's also going to be available on Steam. This is an interesting.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's an interesting title, and I wanted to talk about it in a way because it's not very often that a title just looks completely different from anything else that's currently out there. So it's a VR and mic-enabled sound-based stealth thriller. So that's what they kind of tout it as.
That's sick.
And it's where
that's so cool.
It's where basically you'll only actually see the sound. So you're kind of blind in a way. So you're wearing a VR headset, but you're blind, and you only actually see stuff when sound is enabled. So it's kind of like that Daredevil kind of thing. You know that show Daredevil, where he's blind, but when things start making noises, he can kind of see the ripples in the sound, and it kind of projects a view of the world around him. Well, that's kind of how the game looks from the trailer. And I love this kind of creativity in game development. I think Rowdy, you actually got to try this game out. Is that right?
Yeah, I got to try it out on the PlayStation conference in Belgium. The only shame was, and I asked them like 3 or 4 times if they were sure that they were doing it correctly. They didn't load up the VR scene properly, so I was constantly looking at just the screen instead of being fully immersed in the game. But that aside, it's a really cool title. I mean, there was like a lot of noise around me, but you can actually, what you do is you calibrate in the beginning of the game. You can calibrate, you know, what your background noise is, and then it can discern even in like a loud environment when you're speaking or when you're this. And it's not only like the sound that you make, but also when you move forward, the footsteps that you make will also make a sound. If you're moving forward, you will constantly get like those kind of sound waves that like portray like the environment around you. And the story then goes that you've been in a car accident, and that you've been rendered blind. And you need to use echolocation to move around, but there are also like creatures around you that will eventually try to catch you. It was only a demo that I tried, but they make like also sounds to try and find you, and those are like the red sound waves that you sometimes see in the trailer.
So it's actually
scary.
It's a
very interesting title. It's cool? It's supposed to be a scary title. Well, I don't know how scary. It didn't get that scary in the demo because it doesn't really make a lot of sense yet because you don't know the background of the story, and there was like no audio that I heard. But it is very audio based, and that is something that is really new, and that is something that I find really exciting, that they're using other kinds of technologies to make something more original and more interesting.
True.
Well, you know what I like about that is there was actually a game that came out like last year called Perception, and that was actually for just like standard monitors, but it was the exact same game. It was basically like you were this blind person and you would like tap your cane on the ground and it would create this wave that would give you like this basic representation. And then as you walked, again, like you said, you'd have a little tiny sound ripples that would show you what's like really close to you. And if you made too much noise, there'd be monsters, and it was like a horror game, and it was amazing. And I played it using Vorpex. So it was like a half VR experience. But what I think is amazing is that they're actually integrating your real sound, as opposed to just like hitting spacebar and you have this sound wave go out. You can actually make the sound that you want to, like, you know, be in this cat and mouse game between a monster and you or something, as well as being able to actually like walk around and like be standing up. I think, and that was the thing that drove me to trying to play that game in Vorpex in the first place, was I just loved the idea of being this blind person trying to like evade monsters using sound. I just love that so much.
And apparently there are other titles as well coming, because I saw in the chat that Eric Hartley said that Blind is by an Australian developer, Surprise Attack Games, and it's a bit less of a horror title than Stifled. So it's also it's also using like similar technologies, I guess. Than
that's really cool. Like
I can think of this evolving very quickly.
Yeah. Audio-wise, there are so
Also,
many possibilities, man. Like bubbles and stuff. Like when I was still having my Nintendo DS, you know, I was like blowing into the microphone, popping balloons and stuff like that.
Oh god, not those titles.
Yeah.
But it's funny.
There was a really good one actually. Have you guys ever done the YouTube? There's a YouTube clip somewhere. I think it's a video from the '90s or something, which is the virtual barber experience.
Oh yeah,
stereo.
Yeah,
and that feels really good. There was a game that was released for, I think it was Android and iOS, but it was a mobile experience where you were just listening to the sound, and your enemies were only spatially around you. So you needed to have 2 working ears. There were no visuals other than like a GUI. It was Papa Sombre, I think is what it was called. I tried it. It was difficult to do. So when I was reading the tagline for this title, I was thinking, oh god, I hope it's not just no visuals. But I like what they've done with the ripple effect. I think it works really well.
Exactly. And also the concept of that you're like being hunted in a way. I kind of like that like you can't make too much noise because then you'll get caught. That makes it something very unique.
Sounds very like evolved in a way.
Yeah.
I'm nervous. I make a lot of noise when I'm scared, so this is not going to go well for me. All right.
Well,
also, something a little bit on the side here. A little bit on the side here. Survivor just said that Pimax just announced the look of their upcoming controllers, and they are looking similar to the Valve Knuckles, and he's gonna provide us with a screenshot later on. So that might be nice to pick up.
Yeah, we can show.
You know, just something like to base off of what Zim was saying is like, you know, when you are scared, you know, and you're breathing hard and you're like making this unconscious sound, like fighting against that is one of the coolest ideas in my mind, like especially for a horror game. If some big jump scare just happened and you're like trying to contain yourself and you like the only way you survive this encounter is if you can be quiet enough. Like that is such a cool idea, and it's one of the whole like reasons why VR is so insane, right? Because there's no other game that like you can just do that much and like make it that immersive, especially if it's right in front of you. Some monster's right there. Your only hope, just be quiet. It's gonna be
did Alien Isolation, bro. Did Alien Isolation have audio detection? I can't remember if their AI actually listened. If you're in a locker and the xenomorph alien is running by, I remember situations absolutely, or like you're under a hospital gurney and you're like.
No. And also other games are using that as well, like audio detection. For example, I noticed in Arctica 1 that if you're in like a cold zone and you speak, you see like a little air condenser coming from your head. That is such a nice addition. And adds so much to immersion.
And the best experience, Gary the Gull, where you can speak to a seagull and become friends. It's great. Like that's one where you are actually a part of a small little movie where you're like, "Hey Gary, what's up, man?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm doing fine. How are you?"
It's like what's
the point of that?
It's kind of like scripted, but I felt like a connection a little bit.
Yeah, but
there's also Untethered as well.
Yeah,
Untethered, which is like done by the developers of that Dragon Cancer, where you're in a radio show setting and you're actually saying stuff and like interacting. And the developer was telling me that like the second episode, what you recorded on the radio comes across on the radio station in the truck that you're driving in the next chapter, which is pretty cool. Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, you're right, Zim. Alien Isolation did have that feature where if you're in a locker, you know, you had to be quiet. Yeah, it would pick up your mic if you had a mic attached.
That's why it kept getting me, because the AI in that game was evil. Because like you'd be there hiding. And then the thing would go away from you. You'd be like, "Oh, thank God," you know. And then it would just come charging back and just like stab you with its tail. Like that was not nice.
That was because you said, "Oh, thank God." That was like, wait.
I'm so glad that's over.
Or maybe it wasn't the noise from your mouth. You were just so scared that it came from somewhere else.
Yes,
it smelled your location.
That would be awesome.
That game was like legit scary. Yeah,
it was. Yeah.
Wow.
So
for the record, I've only ever had that issue happen once on a scary game. Okay, so we're not going to go there.
Yeah, it's because you wear adult diapers from there on out, so it's fine.
Yeah, it's easy peasy.
So yeah, going back to Stifled, it was supposed to be coming out to PSVR and Steam on the 13th of December, but the devs just posted something on their Steam page that they're really working hard to make sure it's like a really polished game. So I think it's going to be delayed to 2018, but we'll find out more in the next coming weeks. But it's just a title that I'm really intrigued about, and I'm just glad that we could talk about it, because I think, you know, titles like this really stand out, you know, in the VR world right now. So moving on to other interesting experiences, I got to try out Sonic VR, this week. Has anyone else tried this yet?
I tried it.
You tried it?
What, Rowdy? You didn't try it? What? Fastest
man.
YouTuber alive didn't play it? What?
I know. I still have to. I still have a plan. I still have it on my planning schedule.
Yeah.
Not gonna touch it.
Happen.
I would recommend.
Did you like it, Mike?
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. Like, it's crazy, right? So this guy called Nimzo, he's the guy that made this. He's made some other applications as well, and he integrates this locomotion that he's kind of invented in a way called Walkomotion. So he's done it with a Mario experience, and now he's done it obviously with Sonic, where you kind of actually have to move on the spot like this to move your character through the world. And then if you want to jump, you actually have to hold the A button and jump as well. So it is literally like being in Sonic, the first level of Sonic. So it's got that nostalgia value as well. But I was just kind of going crazy. I was just like moving, swinging my arms around and like gunning it. And he kind of
video.
He said in the comments, he goes, dude, you don't have to go so crazy. But I was like, oh, I was just so like into it. I couldn't help myself. But like jumping up and like collecting those rings, and then there was a section where it had like a loop-the-loop like from the original game. So I was kind of running up it, and I was like going, oh my god, this is feeling so weird. And let you actually do like a loop-the-loop. And I would just say, if you're gonna try it out, just be warned that it is pretty intense. You know, like Zim, you know, you just got to be a bit careful because it might make you feel a bit rough. But just take breaks and, you know, kind of take it a bit slow as you can.
Plus, you move a lot in your room too, so you walk on one place, but then after a while you start to actually go forward, and then you're like, oh hey, that's a wall. Hello. You know? Yeah,
that's right. Especially when I was doing the loop, I could feel myself like leaning forwards more and more. So you just got to be careful. You're not going to face plant and.
Yeah.
If you capture it on film, at least it'll be a viral video. But just be careful.
It's funny. It's funny when I had to record it. I was like going out of my face cam all the time. So I put like a blanket on the floor and I taped it. So I was like standing on, so I could feel like I was standing on that part. But I was like going away from it all the time because you get so excited when you play it. It's a good workout. Yeah.
No, it might be interesting to hear what Zim has to say about it, because it looks like he tried it as well. But I
didn't try it. I saw it and I said, this, okay, so I think I wasn't aware that there was a special locomotion feature in there.
Right.
Okay.
Looking at it, I in my eyes, I just like said, I'm skipping this, because I've seen things like this, again, back in the DK2 days, and every so often somebody tries to hack together like an old experience that's kind of an homage that just doesn't work and falls apart, and really, you know, it's kind of like you're trying to say this is a great cool thing that we can do. I appreciate what the developers trying to do with the locomotion, and I will give it a shot actually now that I know that there's something technically a little bit different to it. But when I first saw the video, I was like, that's so not for me. But I can see why Mike, you had a bit of a blast with it. So now I'm kind of curious.
Yeah. Do you remember seeing those videos on Reddit with like the different locomotion options? There was this guy that was exploring all of them. Yeah, I think that's the same guy, you know, that is doing this, since he has like a range of locomotion options that he has been trying to perfect for quite a while. I think it was in the chat last time as well.
Yeah,
but he seems to have a really good idea on like and is doing a lot of tests on like what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, it might actually be some. I'm still planning to try it out myself, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the guy is called Nimzo. Like you say, he does hang out in the chat on this show sometimes and likes to sort of drop in every now and again. If you want to check out his website and download some of these applications, you can do. It's nimzony.itch.io, and that's where his applications are, and you can download them. He literally just posted a video on his YouTube channel of a Walkomotion locomotion that he's implemented into a Halo VR game as well. So it's
Mike,
very interesting.
Nimzo?
So that's nimsony.itch.io is his website.
Right.
If someone can post a link in the description or in the chat, that would be nice. I got like a screenshot from Survivor, fresh screenshot of the controllers, and they look very similar to the Steam VR controllers indeed. So let me show that on screen if I can.
Sure.
So here we go. Sorry about this weird way of. Okay, here we go. So I'm now moving it into the screen. So if you want to have a quick look, then this is like the Pimax controllers. Highly interesting.
Interesting. Yeah.
Those are knuckles with angular deformities attached to them.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, basically.
That's a trackpad, isn't it? It's a little small on my screen.
Yeah.
Trackpad.
Yeah, it is a trackpad. It says trackpad and trigger. a middle finger button, ring finger cap sense, and pinky finger cap sense. So there's actually 1, 2, and I guess those are buttons as well. 3, 4 buttons. 4 buttons and a trackpad.
What do you guys think of the Knuckles controllers? Have any of you tried them?
I haven't tried
No, but
them
we
yet.
did speak to the Cloud Hat developers about it, and it was very interesting. Very interesting indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So going back to Sonic very quickly, Mark, you said you got to try it out as well. What were your thoughts on this one?
It was cool. I mean, I don't get really sick from VR, so a lot of experiences like that I tried out early on, I think Metroid Prime, like with the GameCube emulator, is incredible.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And my stomach could handle that, so I was very lucky. And with Sonic, it was fine for me. I was running around and looking like a total dick, but I was having a lot of fun. So it was awesome. And then other people were like, yeah, let's give it a go. But Hannah, a 3D artist, tried it, and Carsten, who's super sensitive to motion sickness, which is great to have on your team, you know, to have someone that can actually be your barometer, you know, when you're getting a bit into puke zone. But
100%.
Yeah, but I thought it was cool. I think there was some clever ways that he represented the spin dash attack by kind of blurring the feet in front of you and stuff, you know. And I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was really neat. I mean, it's funny because it's like a tech demo, right? But like, where do you draw the line on polish and making it look nice? And he really kind of pushed it out past. Here's the concept. It looks nice, and the music is very it's very close to Green Hill Zone, but not quite there, which is something from like I appreciate as someone who makes music. Is like you're almost there, but you're completely clear, you know. And you know, it put a smile on my face. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. For a one-man band, you know, he's really doing some real hard work there. And yeah, you know, I just want to sort of say if he is watching or listening, that we all really appreciate it, and we enjoy your little experiences, and keep going, mate. So moving on, finally, obviously, to talk about Mark's game, which is Elevator to the Moon. It was funny because this is kind of an interesting story. I was at Oculus Connect and I was going through the press area and trying different demos and stuff. And this guy, Tom, who's a really nice guy as well, he was like, oh, do you want to try out this Gear VR game? I was like, no. Because a bit like Zim, I was like, you know, Gear VR is a bit of a step back for me and I'm not interested in checking out any Gear VR titles. But then he goes, oh, it's Elevator to the Moon. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I watched the trailer for this one, and this one looks pretty interesting. So I'll make an exception for this game because the trailer is kind of fun. You know, it's got a guy in a spacesuit and, you know, in the lift. And you actually feature in that trailer as well, which is funny.
That's my lift at my house.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, where my apartment is. We had like a week left, and I had like I had no creativity left. I was just completely blank from like making the game and stuff like that. And Carsten said, I'm going to rent a spacesuit and we'll use it for the trailer. I was like, okay. And then it all just kind of came together, you know, and
You can rent a spacesuit.
It worked. Yeah, I know, right? I'm going to find a spacesuit online and we'll rent it. Here it is.
Just for in case you would like to spend like the weekend on Mars or something. Like, this weekend
totally,
I'm
right?
going to Mars, like...
Yeah, and Fred had some really good ideas about like cutting the trailer together because I was just like because I cut the first trailer, the Obey Disobey, and wrote the music and put that all together. I had a very clear vision of what I wanted to do, which is kind of annoy and kind of make a very aggressive trailer, you know. But I wanted something a bit more softer. This one, and Fred just knocked it out of the park. Because like, yeah, I just said try this and edit that a little bit, but very hands-off, and he did an amazing job. So yeah, it was cool.
No, I like the trailer because I actually watched the trailer at the airport as I was just about to fly out to California, and nice. I was like, this looks pretty interesting. So that's kind of why I said to him, yeah, I'll check out the game, and then I checked it out on Gear VR and liked it. And then we kind of ended up chatting, and obviously, you know, pretty much all of us have played the game this week. I've played it, Rowdy played it, Nathie played it, and we all had a ton of fun with the game.
Cool.
But it's interesting because you know, obviously you work for Roccat, right? And they're predominantly a hardware manufacturer. So you know, you've got headsets, mice, keyboards. So it's probably an interesting story about how you ended up making a VR game, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was manager of product research, and we had another title we're working on, and one of the guys from that title, like two of them or so, they wanted to know what VR is about, so I showed them a few games, And then I was like, yeah, I had this idea for a cardboard game where you would, I was just like, with the limitations of cardboard, like what could you do creatively to make a good game? And I thought, well, a point and click adventure game would be cool. And if it was in an elevator, you could change the puzzles as you go further into the sky, because you've got gravity, you've got like interacting with the earth down below from a great height, and a lot of things like that. And then I said, yeah, well, here's my dumb idea, and with this voice that my wife hates, I showed, yeah, with Carson, and he thought it was amazing. And then we asked our CEO, he said, can you do it in 2 weeks? So we did it in 3 weeks, and then we submitted it to the store. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, one level.
Oh, wait. Mark,
3 weeks.
you're the president?
Oh, yeah.
No, this is a very expensive person.
It's weird
to do that.
It's so weird. Like since he started talking here in the podcast, he sounds.
We have no choice, right?
He sounds exactly like you sound like the president, even if you speak in a normal tone. Like I have the feeling he's gonna be angry soon. In a way. Yeah.
I suggest you use this voice for the remainder of this podcast.
No, what happened was we ended up we put it in the store, and then I was sick for many months, and then when I came back we were going to kickstart it, but then I thought, well, let's just ask Oculus what should we do with it, and they loved the demo, and they'd been talking. I found out OC4, they were like, the Gear VR team was like, the Rift team, hey, check out this game, blah blah blah. And then we spun it out to a full title, and then when we were going to have our first call with our dev relations officer, I thought it'd be really funny. Was like, ding ding, we called them, and it's just like, hey Oculus, man, I'm really glad you like this game. And they just thought this was my normal voice. They just talked the entire thing like that. But I was like, no, I can't be so mean, you know. But yeah, but with a three-person team, I do the voices of Rockmeyer, Vita, and spoiler alert, Norman. And our PR, one of our PR people, she's the voice of the elevator. She's a French English person. She's like, please enjoy this elevating experience. And so yeah, like with 3 people and 1 tech artist and 1 beta test wrangler, yeah, we put it together in 10 months and wanted to do something for Gear VR that had a scope beyond what people expect from a Gear VR game, you know. So yeah, and with different control methods and stuff like that. So
and that's the thing, like,
awesome. It's been lots of fun.
You know, I used to play point and click adventures back in the day. You know, like Monkey Island and games like that. They kind of had this kind of
totally, man.
Point and click adventures.
All of them.
Yeah, but it had like a really nice art style. It had humor, and that's kind of what this reminded me of, because you know, the art style is very colorful. It's got this like real humor throughout the whole game, and it is actually point and click in that sense, isn't it? You know, you kind of got this little like pixelated cursor that you can just put over stuff and kind of interact with the world around you. So what kind of made you choose that style over something like a Job Simulator, for example, where it's a bit more sort of grabbing? Was it the limitations of Gear VR that kind of forced you down that route? Okay.
Well, we started with a we started with like we wanted to support all control methods, and we wanted to be able to support touch. We wanted to be able to support gamepad, and we wanted to be able to support Oculus Remote and the swipey doodle and everything that's on VR right now for those platforms. And so with a point and click, we could find somewhere in between, that if you picked up a item that uses more fidelity, like the welding equipment, you can hold the welding mask in front of your face and you can still weld, so you still get that vibe, and you could still have a distance grab to grab things, since in the elevator in Gear VR you can't walk. But we're doing VIII experiments right now, so we're actually porting right now to VIII. Announcement.
Whoa. Hey. Hey, I was the first one to test it on the VIII. Hey. Thank you.
Right? Yeah. Thanks, Nathie. And like, your hand feedback was really good. It was something we've been thinking about. Because throughout development, it's like, do we bring hands in right now, like halfway through, or do we keep it point and click and just message that? So it's been kind of this back and forth, but with the VIII version, we have like an option now where you can actually just pick things up, hit buttons, and you also have the distance grab if your tracking area is small, because we kind of also didn't want to alienate like this huge group that don't have like a room scale setup, that only have a small sort of play area as well. So we wanted something that fits both. But yeah, it's really fun to walk around the elevator. It's actually like 2 meters. Almost like 2 meters by 2 meters, so you can just actually walk around the elevator. It's just the cupboards are a bit hard to reach, but you can still grab stuff and pick them up, and yeah. So we're working on that now. Yeah.
So what was your main sort of inspiration for the game? Like, what made you come up with this concept? Because it's kind of a wacky one.
Oh yeah. Well, we thought, well, what if it was the like this was when John Key was Prime Minister of New Zealand, and he wanted to make a new flag, and no one wanted this flag. and I thought, well, like, what if it was a president that wanted something impractical? And then from there, and this was years before certain people came into power. Just to clear that up.
Yeah, of course.
It was so fortuitous. It was like, no. Like, as we were developing, it was like, that's too ridiculous, you know. And the parallels kind of came together as we're going forward, but it was never intended, you know. But in terms of the idea, yeah, it was just like having that claustrophobic pressure of someone yelling at you, like trying to tell you how to park, or like, you know what I mean? These moments in life where you've got a backseat driver that's telling you what to do and getting quite heated. And the original elevator was very wide, and I said to Carson, no, we need to pull everything in and make it kind of claustrophobic, so that when the motor falls down, it's on fire, you freak out, and you know,
Some of the sections when you're actually, you know, in the sky, you know, in the clouds are going past, and you can see planes in the background. It's just such a really nice experience. You know, you almost just want to stand there and just look out the window for a little while and enjoy the view.
And it was amazing. Yeah, it is actually.
Yeah, I mean, the view is good. That got me. The second I was up in the view area, I was like, yeah, this is nice. It kind of reminded me of being like in Perfect VR, one of those titles where you're just in it to relax. But then, of course, the engine falls out, and you're like, oh, this isn't so relaxing anymore.
It's subverting expectations. Like, I think that's the biggest thing about this game, is hopefully we subvert expectations the whole time. I mean, you weld a lot, sure you push the go button a lot of times, which is like a running gag. Press the go button, or press the go button. You know, like keep pressing that go button to keep going, and of course something's going to go wrong. But we try to make it unique in each step, so you're not completely doing the same thing each time, you know, because the variety of content, I think, is also a way to keep you distracted and immersed, hopefully, that you're doing a lot of different things. Yeah, because
there's tons of secrets in this game as well, isn't there, or different paths that you can take in terms of, you know, you could do things in a certain way, or you could do it differently the next time you play it, so there's some variety in that sense.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's a lot of, watching everyone play through, there's a bunch of stuff people haven't found in terms of like ways to make him mad, or like I think the first person pulled the party button early. Like, we have this party lever, it says do not pull it on the moon, and I saw the first YouTuber try and pull it again, because we're like, yeah, it doesn't work at the beginning, but actually you'll see a green blinking button, and you're like, okay, well now you can pull it. And yeah, that's been really rewarding, is just seeing, like, some people, I think it was you, Rowdy, you just threw the explosive, right? At the barrels, or did you attach it to the hook? Because you're supposed to.
I did attach it to the hook. Yeah.
Oh, you were one of the ones that attached to the hook. Yeah,
I think I did.
I threw it at the barrels. So.
Yeah, it was Nathie that threw it at the barrels, which also works. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's different ways, and he also says different things. He also is randomized a lot, so you'll get a lot of clips just randomly, which has helped with development, because when you've heard that voice for 10 months straight. And then he'll say something that I forgot that I recorded. Yeah, exactly. And then it's like, I'll laugh and I go, okay, good. He's still funny sometimes.
So the interesting thing is with this title is that it launched on Gear VR and Oculus Rift at the same time. So it'd be interesting to understand in a way what the challenge is in terms of developing a game on both platforms. Do you have to sort of develop them both at the same time, side by side, or can you kind of develop for one and then it kind of ports over to the other?
I mean, Gear VR is really tricky, because basically you have a thing that heats up quite a lot, and to optimize for that is very difficult. So we have a very low poly aesthetic, which is part of the charm, I say. Like, I mean, we actually tried, there's actually no lighting in the Gear VR version, but you wouldn't be able to tell, because we use, this is very technical, but we use material changes and a vignette effect, so that certain sides of polygons will look like they're lit up from different angles, and that's why the Gear VR version can kind of hold its own. But then when we went to Rift, we're like, well, with this low poly aesthetic, what can we do that people never do in VR? And that's real-time lighting. So with low polys, we can go, okay, well, let's just put lights in here. And then we were like having frame trouble, because like, okay, too many lights. We're still rendering two screens at 90 frames per second. Like, don't get carried away. and then we pulled it back. But with the real-time lighting, like there's certain moments in the game where you, like when the blinds open and you see the clouds, we can completely change the atmosphere. And we've tried to do that like twice per episode. Like you'll have almost like 2 mini chapters per episode, especially in the second one where the sun sets out and then the quiz happens and you've got the buzzing of the TV, then it opens up and it's nighttime and they're shooting stars and then you have to blow everything up. But
the quiz is brilliant. The quiz is brilliant. I had so much fun in that one. I haven't released that video yet, but I answered sometimes the question wrong just to like, you know, get the thing started over again. It's so well done.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean that idea came very early on. It was like you have this AI and it's like, well, we want the player to feel like a spoiler alert a little bit here, but we want the player to feel like he has cheated this super brain, you know, and he's done it in a way that you can't he's the smartest AI on the planet, but you're a person next to him. And it was actually inspired by I can't say an ending of a specific game, which was inspired by a movie I found out, and that's kind of where the idea came from, making the AI dumber, which is but a lot of German there's a lot of German like beta testers that were just like, no, I must do this the right way. I must answer all the questions correctly. And I was like, when are they going to know that it's impossible? Like, because then we were like, okay, let's make a binary portion of the quiz. So I just recorded 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0. And then we randomized it. So it's like, okay, are you going to really try and answer a binary quiz, or are you going to start thinking outside the square a little bit? But yeah, by then most people try new things. Yeah.
So did you say like it was sort of developed on Gear VR predominantly and then kind of ported to Rift, or was it the other way around? No, it's fine. No, it's interesting to hear like the other elements, but it's just interesting because like there are some Gear VR games out there that I'd probably like to come to Rift, but what I'd kind of like to understand is it you know, a difficult process in terms of you have to literally build the game again in the Rift platform, or is it like kind of something that you can port assets across?
You develop them at the same time. So what we did is we had a PC version running without all the bells and whistles. So we had the materials, we had the environment, and we would have the control methods. So we could, because what would happen is, since we were developing with 6 different control schemes in mind, we even just had like a room which has all the items in it. And since our development cycle was so tight, we couldn't spend 5 months on picking things up or getting fidelity. So we have ways that things lock to for different control schemes. So if you're on Gear VR, you touch it, it's kind of like hovering in your view. If you are on Rift, you pick it up and it's in your hand, and then there's another one if you use the controller. So Carsten's a bit of a genius, and like the way that he's kind of made all of these things work together is really amazing, and I still am amazed how he does it. Yeah, but I'm at the same time basically.
I'm wondering actually, like, where's the player base exactly with your game? Like, is it on the Gear VR or is it on Oculus Home? Of course, you're not gonna give the numbers, I understand, but like, I'm wondering, because I feel like on Gear VR it's getting promoted a little better compared to Oculus Home. Sometimes it's kind of like hidden and you need to like search for it. So yeah, I would love to know.
No, I think in terms of, I don't think we're doing anything specifically like in one way or the other, like us ourselves, but I think in terms of like, I don't know, like in the way that it's perceived, maybe is more of a Gear VR game in terms of its ambition for the platform, you know what I mean? Like in terms of delivering something that has this kind of I expect you to die or I don't know, like job simulator-y feel, especially with the Gear VR remote. You know, I think a lot of people, when they bought that 3DOF controller with Gear VR, they were expecting an experience like that, and hopefully we can kind of fill that for them, you know, because you want to try and do stuff like this, especially if you can't afford these bigger headsets or you happen to have a Samsung phone. You know, I feel that's kind of where the strength is. But
well, I played it on both actually, Mark, and cool. I found the Gear control scheme was ultra intuitive. So it was like the second I sat with it, it was like I knew how to pick stuff up. I found probably like 10 seconds of like how am I to do this on Oculus Touch, but then once I got it, it was fine. And I'd say the visuals of the game really shine on desktop. So if you're a person like me and you had the capability to do both, it doesn't feel like a Gear VR port. It doesn't feel like a game.
Well, that's a really big. That's a really big.
It really doesn't.
Like, thank you very much.
It really doesn't. And the thing that you mentioned, which was niggling me, was the lighting change. I want to go back now and try that again because I noticed something special about when the windows opened, and I didn't know what it was. And now that you've mentioned that there's technicalities behind it, I felt that flavor, is what I'm saying. I mean, that was a cool moment. So
that's great. I mean,
you've answered why maybe I had that cool moment.
Sorry, peek behind the curtain, you know. But no, I mean, for me, it's like it's been more than 10 months. I mean, 10 months straight development, but the idea's been brewing for like 2 years before that, and it's crazy because you get too close to what you create, you know, and just before it comes out, you think, I'm sick of it, I don't even know anymore. You get super kind of over it, you know. But then when I see guys like you playing it and laughing and having fun and kind of losing yourself in the silliness of it, you know, that means a lot to us, you know. And we've been addicted to like reviews and like watching how they're doing it, you know, how they're going to tackle this problem, and it's been really great. Yeah, it's been super fantastic.
We got a question from the chat as well to you, Mark. Has developing Elevator to the Moon gave you any ideas for your next big game, or do they plan to add more to the game?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, there's two kind of branches going on. There's people that want more Elevator, and there's also the feeling of doing something completely different. And we have some ideas that we're working on right now that we want to do. But when we talk to trusted people that we can talk to about these things, they laugh like they did with Elevator, which is a really nice sort of feeling. So it'll be absurd, don't worry. It's the answer. And the next, I have a bunch of other ideas. But I like, there's something this might be a bit of a spoiler, but in terms of, like, Locomotion is something I'm really interested in. And the other thing I'm interested in is like identity in VR, because you assume that you're yourself in VR, you know, automatically if no one tells you who you are. And
it's funny that you mentioned that, because we had a really nice discussion about that last time with Cloudhead Games, where they chose the name of the character
that was really
both male and female. So because I never even considered the fact that I could have been a woman, just because I felt like I was playing, I was doing all of this. So that's something that's very interesting in VR indeed, identity.
Yeah.
And also a follow-up we received, are you planning on releasing to other standalone headsets, like the Oculus standalone and next-gen mobile VR? I don't know what that means, next-gen mobile VR. But,
so we have nothing to announce at this moment, but if you stay tuned, maybe we'll have something in the future that's very exciting.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, we could safely say that a Gear VR to-go port is a very easy port to make, but we have nothing to announce at this time. But the technology is exciting for me. I mean, it's exciting. I mean, we talked about it for like a good few minutes just before, all of us. And I really, I mean, there's people, I talked to an Oculus that have, you know, engineers that work on this stuff, and they are very excited. And this is a really good sign. Like if you're, and from a hardware company, if you have people inside the company excited about what's going on, then you kind of know you're onto a bit of a winner, you know. Like if someone tries something out, or you have a new, like even the way a keyboard can look, or a concept sketch, you're like, oh man, this feels really good, you know. And the Oculus are genuinely really excited about it, and I am too. So it would be really cool to see Elevator or whatever on these other things, you know. That would be really exciting. Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, I definitely want to see more Elevator. Like, I just want another episode. Because, like, you know, I played the game pretty much in one sitting because I just couldn't stop playing. I just wanted to know what happened. And at the end, you know, I felt satisfied with the game because you know I thought it like wrapped everything up quite nicely. But yeah, I did want more.
Which
so
end did you play, Michael?
I did both.
No, don't say.
No.
I've only gotten through the first 2 bits.
Okay, cool.
So I haven't done the second 2 bits. So
yeah,
Mike, before you.
So yeah, what I'd do is, you know, I just want to sort of say to the viewers and the listeners out there, you know, if you want to check out Elevator to the Moon out, it's available on Gear VR and Oculus Rift. You can check it out on the Oculus Store. It's a really nice game, and you know, it's a point-and-click adventure, and you'll have a lot of fun with it. So I totally recommend checking it out. Yeah, we've sort of gone on for a sort of like an hour and 20 minutes now, and sort of fairly conscious of not going too crazy. We went completely nuts last episode, and we had some feedback about that. So, so what I want to do is just want to put it out to the chat, just to ask any questions you've got now, and then we can kind of put it out, whether that be for us or Mark. But I would take your opportunity to chat to Mark, and then we can kind of wrap the show up from there.
I really like the helicopter
that
song.
elevated to the moon.
Sorry, what?
I like the helicopter song.
Oh yeah, that's my old band. That's me singing.
In the
sky, too high to feel my pain. I wrote that song with my best friend after a breakup, and we're in Wellington, and we were looking at the helicopters going on, and we thought, what's the dumbest metaphor for having a broken heart? And that's where Helicopter in the Sky came from. I was going to write the lyrics for you, like in the YouTube video.
It's
we're going to like a sing along.
It's kind of stupid. Like the game seems to be kind of like meaningless in a way. It's very silly, but everything has a meaning for some reason. It's
yeah, totally. I mean, it's the idea is that these different layers. You know, like after we finished, it was like sure, you can play through and it's a silly, funny experience, but there's other things going on, like there's I can't spoil stuff.
Definitely, no, you're definitely right. There is undertones of other stuff going on in this game, definitely.
And subverting expectations. Yeah, I mean, we all got drunk like when we finished development and we went gold, and we were like, and we just sounded like stoners, like talking to each other. Hey man, like, did you notice that such and such happened with him? It's like, yeah, man, like that could mean this, and the true meaning of. It's like, come on, it's an AI that sounds like if David Bowie and like Max Headroom had a baby, you know, like it's silly, but but hopefully we had depth to keep people moving through the story, you know. But so it's really cool.
So before we go, can you do your favorite line from the game?
Oh jeez, man, I don't know. Like, oh man, it's really,
just some
really,
fun
really
lines you really enjoy saying.
I liked it when he was calling you dum dum, like at the beginning and the start.
He's actually kind of a mutant, the character Rockmeyer. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen Brule, like Dr. Stephen Brule from he was on who was it? Tim and Eric. He's like, sweet berry wine. Like that's where that kind of vibe comes from. He's like this really bad doctor, but yeah, that's where the dum dum comes from. Hey, what dum dum? Pick it up, dum dum. Yeah, when we were doing quiz demos at Gamescom, I'd read their names badges and I'd go, hey John, you dropped it, pick it up, dum dum. You gotta go to your next meeting right now. So it's to try and push them through the experience.
Another quick one that would be very interesting to hear is that you've got a patch coming out that's named after someone. Is that right?
Oh geez, yeah, like we did a live app. Oh geez, oh no. We actually did we did like a live app review with John Carmack, and with no sound. So imagine how much fun that would have been. But we're gonna make this patch called the John Car patch, and we're gonna just put it like we're just gonna write down John says do such and such and such. John says to look at the anti-aliasing. John says blah blah blah, and just do all those things that he said, like the John Car patch. Because I thought that was super sweet.
I thought that was really funny.
No, it was awesome meeting him. He was like super sweet guy. It was really cool. Yeah.
So have we got any other questions from the chat for Mark?
Yeah. We got from PD. We got can we invite Mark onto the next show and have him talking Arnie throughout the entire show, please?
Or you mean Rockmeyer? As Rockmeyer, sure, no problem. Yeah, I don't know about mixed reality headsets. I think they're really interesting, but you know, we need like a better software library, like Nathan was saying before. Dum dum, dum dum. Yeah.
Okay, guys. So I think we're going to wrap it up there. It's been a sort of nice length of a show here. So we've talked about Windows mixed reality. We've talked about Sonic. We've introduced Zim to the show. It's been awesome to have you on the show. And we've obviously got to talk to Mark about Elevator to the Moon, which I'd totally recommend checking out. So guys, to wrap it up, you know, this show is a live VR talk show. It is live streamed every Saturday on Nathies YouTube channel. You can tune into the show live at 4 p.m. in Europe, 3 p.m. in the UK, and 10 a.m. in Central US. If you missed the live stream, then you can catch up with it on my own YouTube channel, Virtual Reality Oasis. And also you can catch up the audio version only on Google Music Play and iTunes. So thanks again, guys, for listening. Thanks again for watching. We're having a ton of fun making this show, and you guys are making this thing possible. So thank you again for all your support, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.